This is the 25th lesson in a big series where I have been teaching deep dive tutorials on the top 25 jazz standards for guitar players. Yes, this is the last lesson in this series, and there are 24 others that came before it. There's a link to a playlist of this entire series in the description. The song we are learning today is In a Sentimental Mood. If you are here to just learn the chords or just learn the melody, or you're just looking for the tab for In a Sentimental Mood, just use the timestamp links in the description to go to the section that you're looking for. Here's what we're going to cover in this lesson. I'll tell you about the song. I'll play the melody with tab on the screen so you can follow along. I'll show you two versions of the chords that you can play. I will teach you the scales that you can use to improvise over this song, all with demonstrations and scale diagrams on the screen. And every lesson in this series includes a unique piece of advice for how to truly internalize a jazz standard on the guitar, so I will share that. And lastly, I'll give you a guitar listening recommendation for this song. You can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. There's a link in the top of the description to join. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and to support and to get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. In a Sentimental Mood was composed by Duke Ellington in 1935 as an instrumental, with lyrics added later by Manny Kurtz. The piece quickly became a jazz ballad standard, celebrated for its lush harmonies and elegant and flowing melody. Its harmonic structure features rich chromatic movements and modulations that provide tons of expressive possibilities. One of the most influential recordings is the 1962 duet between Duke Ellington and John Coltrane, which introduced a modern harmonic sensibility and brought this tune to an even broader audience. In a Sentimental Mood is a quintessential ballad for navigating lush changes that include inner moving lines, and well, it's just a beautiful tune. It's one of my favorites. Let's learn the melody to In a Sentimental Mood. Now I'll play you the melody with guitar tab and notation on the screen. I encourage you to practice along with this demonstration as you're working on the melody. Here it is. play you two different versions of the chord shapes for this tune. I'll play each chord once each time a chord changes, and I'll show you the chord shape diagrams on the screen as I play. I encourage you to practice along with these demonstrations as you're working on getting the chords down. First, I'll play you the chords using the simplest chord shapes possible. These are often called shell voicings, and they are widely used in jazz. Here's that demonstration. Now I will play you the more common jazz guitar chord shapes for this tune. They have an extra note in them and they fill out the sound a little more. Here's that demonstration. One of the secrets to better and more interesting comping is just simply knowing more voicings and more inversions of chords. If you want to go deeper with chord voicings and comping by methodically learning all of your chord inversions for the most important seventh chords all over the fretboard, then check out my course called Jazz Comping Mastery. You can go to soundguitarlessons.com/JCM to check that out, and there's also a link in the description. Next, I will show you two different options for the scales you need to be able to improvise and solo over this tune, over the entire chord progression, and I will demonstrate and show diagrams of all of the scales in one specific overlapping position on the fretboard. Let's do a little analysis first. Let's do an analysis with this complete scales sheet for In a Sentimental Mood, where we're just looking at every single chord and saying, what is the scale that this chord actually comes from? So we're playing accurate scales over the whole thing. It's a ton of scale changing. Great practice if you want to do this, but it's also kind of an academic intellectual exercise to just, a theory exercise to just know where things are coming from, and then you can skate over them, play by ear, do a simplified version, which we're gonna do as well after this. So, so much is changing here. What I recommend with every tune is that we also explore improvising and outlining purely chord tones, and that can help a lot with something moving this much, where there's an inner moving line happening here, the root, the major 7, the flat 7, the 6, and that's happening again here off the G. So if you kind of learn to outline those with the chord tones, that can help your ear kind of find that melodically as you play whatever else around it. But this is a solution that I think works quite well, that this being harmonic minor and this also working as harmonic minor together, I think works great. Same with this, right? The minor 7 chord comes from Dorian scale and other scales, and the minor 6 chord also comes from Dorian scale as well as melodic minor. So I'm kind of finding a common scale between each of these two to practice and drill. And I know a lot of this feels really, obviously analytical, and some people have the school of thought that like, that's too dry. You got to just feel it. You got to just improvise. Hey, I totally agree, for making art, for making music, for expressing yourself. But in my experience, at least, and it's okay if this is not the way it works for you, I get to that point by drilling things to get them into my fingers and my hands and my ears, so then I can hear them later because I've actually played them enough to know how to use them. So I think, it works for me this way, but it's perfectly fine to just say, well, technically this works. Let's try that. If it sounds terrible, great. Then it's an experiment. You learned something, you try something else. But if you're like, oh yeah, that kind of works. Let me find a way to do this accurately through the tune, and I'll start to hear it as I play that more. At least for me, I'm not just like hearing something and having it come out of my hands. I have to practice it first, and then I can hear what I've practiced. So that's me. Maybe that's a limitation and other people can do it differently, but I think it's encouraging to know and have a reminder, as always, this stuff takes practice. It takes practice, right? It takes a lot of practice. So harmonic minor to Dorian measure at a time is a really slow tune. So there's plenty of time to kind of make that change. And then same thing here, because the same thing's happening off the G chord, G harmonic minor, G Dorian. Those are accurate scales that these chords come from. So it's a good way to go. D minor now, Dorian scale. I had a teacher a long time ago said, if in doubt ever, if you see a minor 7 chord, just play Dorian always. If you don't know what else to do, if there's not a reason that you're doing something other than Dorian, it's a safe bet to just go Dorian. That's not why I'm doing it here, but I'm just saying if you weren't sure in another kind of context. Then we go to D9, which is D dominant 7 with a 9, and we just switch to D Mixolydian. So we just raise that third up there, which is just one note moving. And then we have G minor, G Dorian, and then this here is a dominant 7th chord a half step above F. So it's that's a really common resolution. Dominant 7th chord, half step above F. Well, this is kind of basically like a C7 altered chord. That's what called a tritone substitution. I'll do a video specifically on that soon, so make sure you're subscribed. But this here could be interpreted in so many ways with so many different scales. So I chose G melodic minor, which is the same thing as G flat altered. So it's like treating that as an altered chord. And the reason is because that's just a little easier to wrap your head around changing from a G Dorian scale to G. It's a kind of a minor version of a G scale to a minor version, another minor version of a G scale, G melodic minor. So that change, if you're thinking in scales, becomes very, very doable. So there's kind of reason and logic behind this. You could absolutely also just play a C altered scale here if you want to. And think of it that way, which would also be like a G flat Lydian dominant scale or whatever. There's again a lot of options on any dominant 7 chord that is resolving tons of options. And then we just go to the F major here. So just sharing some of my thinking behind that. So F major, all this rest of this stuff is just pretty straightforward. We just have a 2-5 and D flat major, this big, very modulating sounding D flat major section of the tune. And then we have a dominant 7th chord that is targeting E flat minor. And so, well, that's just coming from E flat harmonic minor. It's the 5 chord from E flat harmonic minor. Same thing as when we do minor 2-5-1s. So D flat major, bunch of D flat major, and then we're just modulating here to go back to D minor, but we do this backdoor dominant. So it's a 2-5 as if it's going to F. F is the relative major of D, so F major and D minor share the same key signature. So we're going 2-5 into F, but it's a backdoor dominant. That means this dominant seventh is going up a whole step to resolving to that minor. Very cool way to get back to a minor key backdoor dominant. And this can also be called a surprise cadence, where you think it's going 2-5 to 1, but it's going 2-5 to 6. It's going up a whole step instead. Some theory stuff there. And then we have here just a repeat of the A section up here. Nothing else to say. This is just a minor 2-5, last two beats going back to the top there. So a lot of details there. We're going to do the simplified version soon, but let me demonstrate improvising with exactly these scales over the whole progression so you can hear it, see it, and show you all the scale forms and everything like that as well. So before I improvise with them, let me show you all the scales up and down with diagrams on the screen. Then I'll improvise through the form using exactly these scales. The first one is D harmonic minor. I'll play all of these just up and down from the lowest note to the highest note and back. D harmonic minor. Next one is D Dorian. This is the same thing as C major. Next is G harmonic minor. Next is G Dorian. This is the same thing as F major. Next is the D Mixolydian scale. That's the same as G major. Next is G melodic minor. Next is F major. Two more. Next is D flat major. And lastly, E flat harmonic minor. Lots of scales, but we're going to do a simplified version of this soon where we don't have to play all those, but let me demonstrate actually improvising with all of those first, exactly where they're supposed to change like we showed on the complete scales sheet. Here's the simplified scales analysis of In a Sentimental Mood. This should be very refreshing if the other one overwhelmed you, because now you can just truly let go and play some melodic stuff with a major scale and try to have your phrasing really say something and express something. It works surprisingly well to just play the F major scale over this whole thing. You can also think of it as the D natural minor scale, and just think of it as, okay, we're on a D minor chord and then we're on a G minor chord, and those both come from the D natural minor key or the F major key. And then we just simply have a chromatic moving line between them. And part of playing with like a parent scale approach, like if you're just playing F major or D natural minor that whole time, part of playing with a parent scale approach when harmony is moving under you or just any time is that you ideally, probably want to add your own chromatic movement in between those. So when I'm thinking in F major, I'm not just only playing F major, I'm going to play notes in between notes of F major. And that's really just what's happening here in the harmony, right? It's just moving notes in between. And then we get all these chord symbols that tell us, oh my gosh, D minor, major 7, D major 7 is a move. Well, what if you just think of it as D minor and there's a melody line moving through? It's just D minor. And really that is what it is. And then there's a melody line. And so you can do that with your own playing as well, but that really simplifies it. This is just D minor. This is just G minor with a melody line moving through. And that's why we get all these crazy labels. Also, it sounds fantastic to just use the D blues scale. So combination of those two is great, right? If you just play the D minor blues scale over that, it will also be just feeling good. So definitely some stuff to practice there that will work for you. Same here, F major or D blues scale. And then D9, you can't really ignore the fact that that is changing there to be the 5 chord of G major. So you play a G major scale or D mixolydian, same thing. And then this here is just a 2-5-1 into F with that altered 5, but you ignore the altered 5, just play F major. Also, D blues scale still works really well here. Then we go into the D flat major thing, and we get to just rip it on D flat major, ignoring this tiny tonicization moment there. That's totally fine. It's like 1/2 step difference. And then back to 2-5 into F major, and we get all of this as F major again, just like up here, and just get the same thing as we had on the top all the way through. So significantly simplifies what we were playing before with the complete scales. And you can think of the complete scales as a purely theory investigation for what scales do these chords come from, so I actually know. And then sure enough, ignore them, use them, target them, whatever. I like to practice all this stuff and also practice just trying to ignore it all and just play, right? All of that, rotating through that kind of practicing so I can know where I am, so I can feel and hear the harmony, so I can be really kind of clinical about it, and then also just let go and let my intuition happen and say, what did I like about that? What did I not? What I didn't like about it, I'm going to go back and practice really specifically. So it's all part of a strategy and a plan to continue moving forward, so we don't just feel like we're spinning wheels, which I know is a rut that we all get stuck in sometimes. So that's why I'm doing all of this extra information for you. So let's demonstrate this. I want to show you that it really works. So I'm going to demonstrate improvising with just these exact scale options through that progression. Here's that demonstration. You want to do whatever it takes to just get through the tune as soon as possible, to be able to play a complete version of the tune using whatever minimal information is needed. I actually think the musical results of this are very cool. But then the next step after that is beginning to target the chord changes in more detail. If you want to go deeper on jazz guitar lead improvisation and master outlining and targeting chord tones in your solos with a methodical system that I developed over many years, then check out my course called Nail the Changes. You can check it out at soundguitarlessons.com/NTC, or you can use the link that's in the description. Here's your internalization tip for this video. I do one of these in every lesson lesson in this whole series. And it's about going deeper on the song and really getting it into your soul, into your body, into your bones. We could call this section like the nerding out section too. These are usually pretty heavy things to practice that just are so good for your musicianship. In this one, I want to recommend that you map out your melody of the tune that you're working on with various intervals and just let it be slow. And if you want to work it up to really truly play it, that's great too. But even just a slow kind of working it out is amazing for studying the song, internalizing the melody more, the fretboard, your ears, your technique, everything. So if we take this tune, and we do it with fourths, which I'll have to do much slower than that. I just love how much it fills out the sound, how much it forces me to know the scale, the key center, the melody itself. The sound is often going to be really weird with any interval you choose because some of it will line up with the harmony and some of it will not. And that's just part of doing strict intervals. I still think it's really fun to do. If we do sixths, I have lessons on my channel about mapping out all your scale forms up and down the neck with fourths and with sixths, 2 different lessons. You can search for those on my channel, find them easily if you're interested in that. It has like the tabs and the fingerings and all of that. But that is just what the recommendation is. Let it be slow. If you love that practice, then it's just so, I love practicing that kind of thing. And so if that's right for you, fantastic. Don't worry about mastering them all or doing all of them, but just do it to the extent that practicing it stimulates you and then you're doing the right thing. If that doesn't excite you, then great. There's so much to practice. Choose something else. That's fine. You don't have to do it, but that is my recommendation if you want to just have the song so down and have some interesting different ways to play it. And even if you end up using a little bit of that fourth on just one little part when in your actual playing, great. You don't have to do the whole thing. Just do a little bit of it. But once again, that's the musicianship practice, increasing our overall skill as a musician and guitar and as a guitarist, not just pushing buttons like a monkey and playing the fretboard and memorizing something and saying, great, what else do I do? Well, this kind of stuff is how we go deeper on it. So that's why I'm recommending all of that. And that's what I recommend for this tune. Not for this tune, but that's my tip for this lesson. All of these tips are meant to be applied to anything you're working on. I'm just throwing them in here in the series. So that's it for this one. I'll give you my guitar listening recommendation for this song in 1 second, but first, you can access and download the learning resources from this whole lesson series and from my other lessons on my channel by becoming a premium supporter. You'll get PDFs of the chord progression lead sheet, the scale breakdown sheets for soloing, the scale diagrams, the chord shape diagrams, and a custom-made backing track with me comping. You'll get everything except for the melody sheet music because that's not in the public domain, but you can easily learn the melody from this video. Just use the link in the top of the description to join and support and get all of those extra resources, or go to soundguitarlessons.com/join. If you want a jazz guitar listening recommendation for In a Sentimental Mood, I recommend the guitarist Pasquale Grosso, one of my more recent discoveries and one of my favorite guitarists now. He's just a virtuosic player and beautiful solo guitar player. On his album called Pasquale Plays Duke, you can find a version of In a Sentimental Mood. I saw him live recently and it was a wonderful and inspiring performance. So check out Pasquale Grosso. There's a link to a playlist of all of my listening recommendations in the description for this whole series. Make sure you listen to that version or any other version that you love as you are working on this song. And make sure you're subscribed because I can't wait to see you in my next lesson. I post a lesson video every single Tuesday. I've been doing that for 6 years now, and I haven't missed a week of doing it. So subscribe for all the future lessons. Hit that like button and leave a comment to let me know if you liked this lesson. It really makes a difference and it helps the video reach more people. Check out the description for all the links I've mentioned and how you can support the channel. I appreciate you so much. Thank you for watching. Take care and happy practicing.